here has heard of an Armenian? Okay. Who here has heard of the Armenian genocide? Okay. So let's start off by saying Armenia is a small mountainous country landlocked by Turkey, Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Iran. And its history goes back about 2,000 years. In 301 AD, it was the first nation to adopt Christianity as its official religion. And in 405 AD, Mesrop Mashtos created the Armenian alphabet. So the population of Armenia is 3.1 million, and the Armenian diaspora, which is the Armenians living around the world, is 8 million people. So why is there such a big difference between the people living in Armenia and the people living outside? This brings me to my next point, the Armenian genocide. During World War I, the Turkish government carried out the Armenian genocide to extinguish the Armenian population in the Ottoman Empire. So, the acts of Turkey committed against the Armenians are considered acts of genocide. What is genocide? Genocide is defined as the violent crimes committed against a group with the intent to destroy the existence of the group. In 1915, when the genocide did occur, there was no words to describe this act. Dr. Raphael Lemkin in 1948 created the word genocide, which is the combination of geno, which means a group or a race, and side, which means the killings. There are 5 categories that describe genocide. The first one is killing of the members of the group. The second is causing serious bodily or mental harm to the members of the group. The third is deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. The fourth is imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. And the fifth is forcibly transferring children out of the group and into other groups. So before 1915, there were different acts that were leading up to the genocide. In 1890, there was an Armenian demonstration in Constantinople, Turkey, and it was brought to an end by Turkish authorities killing Armenian protesters. In 1894, 74 villages were attacked by Turkish military in Sasun, which is a region, an Armenian region in Turkey, and it resulted in the death of 10,000 Armenians. And in 1909, the massacre in the Adana province of the Ottoman Empire, caused by political, religious, and economical differences, resulted in the massacre of 20,000 Armenians. So, what happened during this genocide that makes it a genocide? At first, the armies were disarmed, and the intellectuals were killed, and this stripped the Armenians of any leadership and any possible relief that they could have possibly had. Women and children marched through the desert of Derzor, and this was to take them to concentration camps. On their way there, the children and the women died of thirst or hunger. And to this day, if you still go to Derzor, the desert in Syria, and if you dig up the land, you can still find the bones of the Armenian women and children. And then in a testimony by an Armenian genocide survivor, Hanım Palutyan, she says, pregnant women were eviscerated, their stomachs were cut open with swords, and their babies ripped out, thrown against the rocks. These experiences that I'm telling you about are genocide. They fall into the categories of genocide, and this is why it's true that the Turkish government carried out the Armenian genocide to extinguish the Armenian population in the Ottoman Empire. Thank you.
So I guess that, and you have to reach the, since I'm the ones that. Okay.
All right, well, we know what the subject is. I'm not sure what the argument is until the end of the speech, when it seems to be suggested that the Turkish government has either denied that it was genocide or people don't believe that there was a genocide. That would have been something that would be important to put in the beginning of the speech. You've got a lot of background information on Armenia, and so we got some sense of where it is and a little bit of the history and context that's going on there. We need a little bit more on the conflict that involved the acts that you described as being genocide and why they were being carried out, and or for instance, the issue. Here we are. I mean, this is 100 years later, and you're talking about it, and I'm wondering, why are you talking about it? That's the controversy here. Why are you talking about this 100 years later? It sounds like it's an informative speech. If there's an argument here, it seems to be that somebody is denying that it was a genocide, or they don't want to classify it as a genocide, and you need to explain that much more clearly. There's a setup of your ideas, but they all run together very quickly at the beginning of the speech, and I think you need to have a stronger structure for the information that you're presenting. It sounds chronological when you're talking about the acts that occurred. It sounds kind of a spatial method of organization when you're talking about what constitutes, what Armenia is, and then also what constitutes genocide, and then what constitutes the different kinds of genocide, and how all of those things fit together to develop an argument, I think, is a little problematic. There was a definition of genocide. You explained where the phrase was created. You explained what the different components of it were. I didn't hear any authorities or experts, the United Nations, Amnesty International, any international groups say that what happened in Armenia in 1915 was in fact genocidal and it met those criteria. I would think that you would want some testimony from authorities that suggested that. The only thing that I got that was a piece of evidence that clearly applies to this was the eyewitness testimony describing atrocities that were that took place in these events. Some of the events that you described, I don't doubt that there's a historical record of them. You need to give us the source citation on the historical record. I think you do speak to the audience pretty effectively, but like I said, it wasn't until the end of the speech that it was clear kind of where the argument was, and afterwards we're going to have to reconstruct how this fits together, and that's not the way it's going to be clear for an audience, and so I think you went at it a little backwards there. All right, thank you.